Hey everybody, Scott here, and just thought I'd check in with you. I'm off running some errands this morning, but I thought that I'd talk to you today really quickly about the whole concept of the submission process. And I'm bringing this one up because as I was sitting there yesterday, I was getting my hair done, got my hair cut, nice and everything like that. Anyway, I was getting my hair cut, and the stylist was sitting there going, well, how do you go about picking books? And I thought, you know something, that might be kind of an interesting point for all of you to sort of hear about. So here's kind of the process that we go through when we're looking at books. Number one, I look at your query letter. When the query letter shows up, I'm looking at a couple different things. So I guess I should say, before we get too far into this is all sort of in phases, okay? So your query letter shows up, and immediately we're looking at first response, our first glance at what you look like. Are you professional? Are you really pitching a story? Does this premise sound worthwhile, right? That's one of the first things we look at. So let's just say that you send me this pitch. It's something I've been looking for. You've written a really professional letter, and I'm like, dang, this sounds good. Okay, so we go to phase two. Now, phase two is the request for additional material. Now, that can be a partial, it can be a full, it could be a synopsis. Sometimes I just request the synopsis from people, but otherwise it could be a synopsis, a partial, a full, whatever that might be. And now this phase is to look at the actual project. And we're trying to see, does this project have that same oomph to it that says, I got to read more? That's what we're looking for. We're going to see now if everything you talked about in that query letter matches up with the story. That's going to be the key one. Because there's a lot of times that many authors spend so much time crafting the most gorgeous query letter ever, and it's really not what the story's about. So now I take a look at the story. So I'm going to read the partial. So let's just go with the partial approach. And which is most often what I request for. So I'm going to request a partial. So I'm going to read your partial. And let's say that if when I requested the story, I had some questions, I'm going to start with the synopsis first. I want to know where that storyline's going to. If I felt that the premise sounded good, I'll start with the story. So it never really matters. I mean, it's one way or another. So if I start with the synopsis, what I'm looking for is this story really telling what this author thinks that they're telling? And does it have all the elements in it? And a lot of times I might read something and that storyline is like all over the place, and I don't need to read anything beyond that. If I see a story that's just like, and then we're going to do this, and we're going to do this, and we're going to do this, I'm like, done. So let's say, though, I'm going to read your story. So I read your story, and I'm going to read that partial, that first three chapters, and if that story has got me to the point that I'm like, this is really good, I want to make sure things are good, then I go to the synopsis, and then we see if it falls apart. Hopefully it doesn't. So let's say now we're at this point that it was like, dang, they got this. I'm going to ask for a full. Because now we got to see whether or not you have done nothing but craft that first three chapters, which we always say has to be golden. If you have done nothing but craft those three chapters to make them amazing, or if the story falls apart. And if it doesn't, then our next step, let's say I read through the whole manuscript now. All right, we got this. We nailed it. Now I'm going to read your full manuscript. I get to the end, and if I really, really like it, now comes the next phase. And that next phase involves me maybe asking for, what other projects do you have? What other things are you looking for? Where are you going to? Now I got to figure out who you are as a person. At this point now, it's kind of that interview phase where, you know, the employer has looked at your resume, looked at your application, and now they're going to talk to you. But the real purpose for that interview is, do I like you? right? Do you have any clue as to what's going on? So that's that next phase. And then we look at that and then we try to make our decision, is this somebody we can work with? So if you're somebody who's sitting there going, gosh, why does this thing take so long to get this stuff done? There's the reason why. And that's just for one manuscript. So if I'm requesting every single day 15 to 20 manuscripts, and we're looking for the first 3 chapters for every one of those manuscripts, you can kind of see the backlog of what we're looking for. Now that's just for me. And I mean, I just, like I said, most of the time I look for partials. If you've got somebody who's requesting a full and they're actually reading the whole thing, now you should understand why it takes so long. So that's kind of the thought process that we go through, at least that I go through when I'm deciding on a project and a manuscript. I mean, I'm really thinking about this because, as I've said before, it's a long-term process here. Okay, so as always, I'm going to keep driving here. I'm about ready to hop on the freeway. But as always, make sure that you reach out to me. I'm on Instagram, I'm on Twitter. Make sure that you cruise over the Facebook page, Greyhaus Agency over at the Facebook page. Go to my website, go to the blog, that's scotteakin@blogspot.com. Make sure you cruise over there. If you like this video, please do me a favor, make sure that you subscribe to this one. Remember, at the 1,000th subscription, I'm going to be picking somebody who's going to be part of that at least 6 month mentorship with Greyhaus Agency to work with you on your stories and your writing and things like that. But make sure you subscribe to this one, and I look forward to talking to you soon. And remember, as Ray Bradbury always says, the only time you fail is basically when you stop writing. So don't stop writing, keep working. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.